All right, we are broadcasting live. Welcome to Phil's First Party Parlay, where we talk all things timely and topical in the insurance restoration industry. I'm Phil Sanoff, trial lawyer with Morgan & Morgan's Insurance Recovery Group. With Morgan & Morgan's Insurance Recovery Group, I have got 55 of the most awesome attorney colleagues you would ever want to know. We are in 25 offices, 13 states, all across the country. If you have any problem with any insurance claim, you need to come see us. You can reach us through our website, forthepeople.com, hit pound LAW from any cell phone, anywhere, or just get me on my personal cell, 713-825-3444. Morgan & Morgan Insurance Recovery Group. We can help you wherever you are. Joining me this evening is one of those colleagues, my friend, Joe Parrish. Joe, hit that magic button and come see us, please.
Hey, Phil, thanks for having me.
There he is. Thank you for being here. I need to introduce you a little bit, Joe, for all the folks. We've got some attendees here. Let me make sure to mention attendee list. If you want to know how to raise your hand with the electronic raise your hand function, I can unmute you. You can ask a question. If you'd like to type it, if you prefer to type it in the Zoom chat, I will be monitoring the chat to give Joe questions. Joe joins us tonight from our office in Big Pine Key in the Florida Keys. Joe is our resident lawyer down there. I'd like to let some folks know a few things about Joe. Joe has been practicing for over a decade. For about half of that, he's been doing primarily first party claims. In his experience doing defense work, like a lot of us, before he came over to represent policyholders, he got to see just how insurance companies work, what they utilize to evaluate claims. Now he uses all of that knowledge to help our clients when they have their claims against policyholders, when the insurance companies pay too low, play too slow, or say no on any payment. If you're down in the Keys or anywhere in Florida, you need to come see our friend Joe Parrish. Joe, we are so happy to have you here, sir.
Well, thanks for having me, Phil. And I guess I prepared this speech on hurricane preparedness. It's something that's very important for the residents of the Florida Keys, and going into hurricane season, it really hits home right now. So appreciate you having me on. The main points that I wanted to talk about is, well, number one, understanding the unique lay of the land in the Florida Keys. It's a very different place, and those unique factors really play into winning or losing your insurance claim. The second part of my discussion, I just want to give some pointers about hurricane preparedness from a pre-hurricane standpoint. And then as my final point, I'm going to give a few tips with regards to post-hurricane preparedness and how to make sure you don't get taken advantage of by unlicensed contractors or trusting people to assist you with your claim that you probably shouldn't put your trust in. So,
well, fantastic. Let me intro that a little bit. As you know, as folks know that have seen this before, we always try to do the 3 points. I'm a trial lawyer. I believe in the power of three, magic of three. You came up with 3 glorious points to help people from the unique perspective of hurricane claims, hurricane preparedness in the Florida Keys. So with that first point about what to do for hurricane preparedness, actually, I've already forgotten what your first point was. So why don't you outline it for us and then go straight in?
So the first point was just understanding the unique lay of the land. And with what I mean by understanding the unique lay of the land, it's more of a hypothetical, not necessarily understanding the lay of the land physically or geography wise. It's knowing the intricacies and the unique factors of the Florida Keys that could make or break your insurance claim. It's a very unique place. It's why I moved down here. It's why everyone moves down here.
Right.
It has very unique architecture, from old conch houses to new hyper modern island style construction. We're surrounded on all sides by water. We got the Gulf on one side, we got the Atlantic on the other, and bays in between. It's a harsh climate. It's salty, it's humid. Salt and humid air causes its own set of problems for property. And when you go to make an insurance claim, you should know or understand, how your property has been affected by the climate before the hurricane takes place. We're largely unprotected from hurricanes, just kind of hanging out at the end of the state of Florida, with nothing to protect us from the wind or from the flood. So the unique lay of the land certainly makes things a little more different in preparing for a hurricane down here than it would in other areas. Another factor that people need to understand, or that that I like to try to explain to insurance companies all the time, is that things are more expensive down here.
Right.
The cost of real estate is astronomically higher than other areas of the state of Florida. The cost of construction is higher. Labor is higher. Materials are higher. The cost of purchasing the insurance is higher. There's a unique...
Well, and I wanted to ask you a little about that too. As far as understanding the lay of the land, and I know you came up with these great points that all transition to one another and coordinate with one another.
Right.
Is that a big piece of it? Is the cost not only of the materials, but getting the labor down there and does that have to factor into the expense and the time, everything with having to do with insurance repairs?
Absolutely. And when we talk about the cost of construction, obviously when you have a hurricane claim, there's going to be construction in the end. And when you're talking about labor, construction labor has two factors down here. A, it's more expensive. B, it's hard to get people to show up. You have a shortage of workforce down here in the construction labor, in the construction industry, which drives the cost up in and of itself. So finding good people to help you, and good contractors that you can know, or that you know and that you trust, to actually get the work done, will play into whether or not you have enough money ultimately out of your insurance claim to cover your losses. Sure. So there's a double-edged sword with regards to labor. And then being that we're on an island and everything has to be brought down, you have the added factor of material costs. Insurance companies either don't understand that or don't want to understand those factors. And when they adjust claims, they take all of that for granted. And that's why we're here, I suppose, to help keep them in line. But I think understanding those issues on the front end certainly help you become more prepared for when the tragedy strikes.
With you being down there and handling so many hurricane claims from Hurricane Irma in recent time, what's been your experience with the insurance companies in that regard? So that when folks are watching this, goodness gracious, we don't wish anybody any bad luck, but it's going to happen. If you live in the Florida Keys, it's not a matter of if, it's somewhat when at this point in our lives. How does that affect folks with their insurance companies? The insurance company play that to their own advantage and try to just say, we're going to limit it. Tell the folks about what to expect given the experience that you've had so far.
Absolutely. There's, to a certain extent, I think they use it to their advantage. And to a certain extent, I think it's possibly a factor of just being overwhelmed. You have a disaster like Hurricane Irma that comes through and wipes out a very large percentage of the houses. And if the houses weren't wiped out, they're severely damaged. So you have a shortage of insurance adjusters. So they're pulling adjusters from, other states that have never seen a hurricane in their history. And you're putting people down here that are, more in tune with fire losses or more in tune with other natural disasters that have nothing to do with hurricanes. And so they don't really understand. And also, aside from the fact of not understanding the causation of the event, they don't really understand the cost of repairing. They punch their numbers into a program called Exactimate, and it spits out a number. I don't know how they get the calculation. It's supposed to be based upon local rates. I found that the local rates are astronomically higher than what Xactimate puts out. So that's an issue in and of itself that perhaps one day we'll look into. But yeah, I think it's a mixed factor. I don't think that they're always using it to their, or purposefully trying to use it to their advantage. I think, sometimes they get overwhelmed and they send people down here who just aren't trained enough and don't understand, the lay of the land or the unique factors in play in the Keys.
And we've talked a little bit before the show, Joe, and I'm just not perfectly clear. Is it primarily because of the risk factors and because of the lay of the land and the unique geography and location where we're talking about in the Keys? Is it primarily, if not only, Citizens Insurance, or are there other carriers down there that you deal with, at least on a somewhat regular basis also?
Interesting question. Citizens Property Insurance Corporation is a state created entity. They're supposed to be an insurer of last resort. In the Florida Keys, that's the insurance company that generally covers the wind policies. Before Hurricane Irma, it seemed that some other private companies were coming into the market. There's a program called depopulation under the Citizens statute. And essentially it says that when you can buy the same policy on the private market for a reasonable price, that Citizens has to push that policy over to the private market, and you're no longer eligible for Citizens. And up until Hurricane Irma, I think it seemed to me, and I was new to the Keys at the time, so I don't know exactly how many different insurers were down here or coming in right around the time of Irma. It seemed like there were a few coming in. Seems like after Hurricane Irma, they're all kind of leaving again because
got out of town.
They got hit pretty hard after Hurricane Irma. Understandably so. There was a huge loss down here, and I'm sure they took on a lot of liability by coming in.
Sure. Got it. How are things recovering from Hurricane Irma? I haven't been down there in a few years. I'm trying to remember the last time I was there for a Florida Association of Public Insurance Adjusters conference. I guess it was right before. Maybe it was right after Irma, and things were torn up. We got the resort was put back together enough. I haven't been in a few years. How are things going? Again, tying into your lay of the land, what are you seeing? How are things there now for folks?
Well, insurance is so expensive in the Florida Keys. I've unfortunately had a lot of people come to me and they, once they pay off their mortgage, they've lived here for a long time, they've owned for a long time, and they finally, reach that goal of paying off their mortgage. They're no longer required to carry wind insurance. And if anybody's out there listening and you're about to pay off your mortgage and you don't have to pay this astronomical amount for wind insurance anymore, I would encourage you to avoid avoid that temptation, because I've unfortunately had so many people come in that that just didn't have insurance. They canceled their insurance as soon as they paid off their mortgage, and those are the people that are now left attempting to recover. And I think those are the people that are struggling the most with the recovery. For the most part, at least in terms of my caseload, obviously you're going to always have several cases out there that are more difficult with more difficult questions, and those are the ones that are still pending. But it seems to me that things picked up over 2019. 2018 was a little slow going, the year directly after Irma. Irma was at the end of 2017. 2019, the insurance companies started to come around, and it's still rolling into 2020. And I've followed up with some of my old clients, and I'm happy to report that they've got brand new houses in some instances, and fully repaired. So I think the recovery is going really well, but unfortunately you have people that are still very much struggling out there.
Sure. Those folks need to come see you.
Glad to help at any time.
You bet. Well, what else do we have for your next point to transition into, Mr. Parrish?
All right, so the second point that I had was just with regards to hurricane preparedness from a pre-hurricane standpoint. And obviously everybody knows, go out and buy bottles of water, go out or batten down the hatches, make sure everything's prepared. I'm coming at this point from more of an insurance claim or litigation standpoint. What I've seen that make or break claims in the Florida Keys, and the main thing that I've seen is people forget to document the condition of their home before the storm. And the reason why the unique lay of the land is interesting as to this particular factor is because you have the harsh climate, you have salt in the air, you have what's called deterioration or spalling of concrete that naturally occurs. And so, for example, if you have a hurricane claim with cracks in your concrete pilings, generally every house down here, for the most part, is built up on concrete pilings because of the flood zone. So concrete is a porous substance. It's prone to crack if there's any sort of imperfections in it, and the salt air gets to the rebar. The rebar corrodes, causes the rebar to expand, and the expansion causes the concrete to crack. Anytime you see a crack in a concrete on an insurance claim in the Florida Keys, the insurance company will almost 100% of the time say that that crack was there before, or that crack was there due to a construction defect, or that crack was natural deterioration over time. And you have a client that's saying, wait, I've never seen any cracks in any of my concrete, in any of my components of my house. My house was in pristine condition. And I asked them, well, it should be easy to prove your case then. Show me the pictures of the condition of your house before the storm, and then I can easily match those pictures up with the cracks and the catastrophic damage after the storm. And, a lot of clients are really good about that. But sometimes, it's not a natural thing. People aren't used to preparing for hurricanes. You can't cross off everything. You don't have a checklist of things to do before the hurricane, generally speaking. Right. So one thing that I found really help make or break your claim is documenting the condition of your house. Take pictures of everything. Take videos. And when I say everything, I mean everything. Lift up the blinds. Take pictures in the corners of your windowsills. When the winds hit your house, I've seen pressure cracks in the windowsills of nearly every single house. I go to their house and I lift up their windows, or I lift up their blinds, or push back their curtains and see these cracks for the first time. And my clients don't even see those. You have to check out all of the nooks and crannies of your house, document it all. You'll find that most likely your house was in perfect condition, or not perfect condition, but in good condition before. And then damage that you're finding after the storm is undoubtedly caused by the wind or caused by the storm in some way, shape, or form. But unless you have the documentation beforehand, it's really difficult to prove. And one way or the other, the jury's going to have to decide, and you want to give them as much information as you can, so that they rule in your favor.
Well, you bring up a great point, Joe. There aren't the type of checklists, the type of systems. I'm big on systems, checklists, processes. We're going to come up with a checklist, a hurricane preparedness checklist on what to do to document for your home from the Florida Keys insurance claim perspective, and somehow find a way to get that out there. That's project number one for me and you. I'm so glad that you spurred that on. And we're verifying it. It's going to be on a YouTube channel, so we got to go back and do it. We'll figure it out. What else, brother? Help me. Keep going. You're on the road.
So, that was one of my main points, and I wanted to focus on, taking pictures and videos, because it is so important. And I want to go through a couple areas that I've found that people tend to miss, and at least they tend to miss it before the storm, and then they see it after the storm or after a couple inspections. The concrete pilings and pillars, where your pillars connect to the cross beams, the joints, any joints where two different components connect. If your house gets racked, it undoubtedly will crack or cause some separation. This is a hot point of contention in terms of insurance claims and litigation. Again, the insurance companies never think that the concrete was caused by wind. Even when you're hit by Hurricane Irma, one of the most devastating storms in known history in the Florida Keys, you're hit with that and your house is devastated, but for some reason the cracks were there before. That's going to be their point. So look at the fenestrations, the connecting joints from the windows and the walls. Check your doors. Videotape yourself opening and closing your doors and windows. It might sound annoying. It might sound tedious, but it could pay off large dividends in the long run. Or it could save your house from a denied claim as opposed to a claim that or damages that you're paying for out of pocket.
I want you to back up for a second for us, Joe. Now, you and I do this for a living, and so we know all about fenestration. But some folks out there, the Florida Keys residents that are wanting to make sure that they follow Joe's checklist, that they get everything ready. What if they hear that word in the fenestrations and they don't know what to do? Help us with fenestrations. Give us an easier discussion of what that is, please.
Well, technically, it's a big word that my engineer uses a lot, but I've come to learn kind of what it is. And my understanding from my engineer is that it's where walls connect with other components of the house. So you could have a fenestration, windows most commonly, where the walls and joints connect the window. So the window sills, the door openings. So it's essentially any connecting joint. And don't quote me on that because I'm not an engineer, but that's my understanding of what it is.
I know my engineers that testify about fenestrations, basically they're talking about doors and windows. That's how I break it down for them, doors and windows. So I think you did fine with that. You talked about videoing and pictures from the sills, opening the doors, showing that everything works before the storm. That's what's going to get the claim paid after the storm.
Exactly. And in the Florida Keys, if you don't have impact windows, the code says you have to have storm shutters. I see damage to these accordion storm shutters all the time. And kind of goes back to the salt, humidity in the air. Insurance companies like to say the storm shutters were, these are hurricane shutters. Hurricanes aren't supposed to damage hurricane shutters, right? So it must have been the salt in the air. That's why. Well, it's when you're dealing with the force of God, a force majeure, an act of nature. It's a power that's beyond any of us. And I don't know a single builder or manufacturer that can create hurricane shutters that are actually hurricane proof.
Hurricane proof, right? That's a different game, right?
So what I would suggest is, and I have hurricane shutters on my house, and I know how tedious it would be to open and close every single hurricane shutter. But I would video it, show that they work, because hurricane shutters are huge ticket items. I have a claim that I recently resolved. And I think the hurricane shutter aspect alone on the particular claim was something to the effect of $30,000.
Wow.
They had a special type of hurricane shutters that come up from the top. And, he had videos of them working, and probably wouldn't have paid, or they probably would have fought the claim a lot harder if he didn't have the videos, just because they were older. They looked a little weathered on the outside. But when we showed the videos that they actually worked, that they're rolling down and rolling up, that was the key, So when you have that documentation, the claim is going to be covered, as opposed to, giving the insurance company the opportunity to say no. Because anytime you give them the opportunity to say no, undoubtedly they're going to say no. Sure. Every single time.
Well, and it's so much more readily available to do it these days, with virtually everyone, so many people having smartphones. You hit the video camera, you walk around. I tell folks, not in the Keys, because it's a bit of a different consideration in the places where I typically would do the hurricane claims. Go in every room, take a picture of the floor, picture of the ceiling, picture of every wall, picture of all your stuff. It's the same type deal. It's a little more complex in the Keys. You got to video those hurricane shutters working. But that's why we had you on here, to help folks understand from the unique perspective of the Keys what preparedness means down there. So folks, we'll put that on our checklist. Take your phone, go take the photos and the videos.
Yeah, it's easy nowadays with the cell phones, iPads. It is tedious, but a couple hours out of your day for possibly $100,000 or more, I would say it's worth it.
We'll take that. Right.
The last area that people always forget in terms of documenting the condition of their house. And people that aren't in the Keys don't have the opportunity to do this because most houses outside of the Keys are not up on stilts, up on pilings. Is the subfloor beneath your house. You have a special opportunity to take videos, take pictures of your plumbing, of your subfloors. You could easily document that. When I have claims with people who did not document the status or the condition of their subfloor, and there's water spots, you know, the water came in probably from your roof. The hurricane, you know, you had water damage inside, and the water leaks down and causes water stains and soft spots on your subfloor. But if you don't have pictures of it, the insurance company says it's from a plumbing leak. Right. It's from a bathtub overflowing. It's from your refrigerator leaking, and for whatever reason your refrigerator's not covered because it's due to a power outage. And there's excuse after excuse after excuse, and you can easily prevent those excuses by documenting the condition of your subfloors. And in the Florida Keys, you have the unique opportunity to do that because whereas in most places your subfloor is sitting on a slab and you can't get under it to document it, in this instance, it's very easy to document. And for whatever reason, people always seem to leave that off the list. So that's another important one that I would add on that, you know, goes specifically along with preparedness here in the Florida Keys.
We're going to have that on your checklist, Joe, the checklist that you and I'm going to help us get it ready to distribute, the Florida Keys checklist.
Sounds good. All right. Well, my final point, you know, I've talked about the unique lay of the land. I've talked about pre-hurricane preparedness. And so I just had a couple pointers with regards to post-hurricane preparedness. And I've seen in my experience handling these Hurricane Irma insurance claims in the Florida Keys, a lot of people taken advantage of by unlicensed insurance or unlicensed contractors, unlicensed mitigation companies, fly-by-night, do-it-yourself people that come in and you know, promise the world and take your check and deliver nothing. You know, the Florida Keys has less people in the labor force, obviously, as I discussed earlier, but there are good people in the labor force, people you can trust, people you can rely upon. And so I always like to encourage people to hire local people you can trust, people that are in the community, people that are recommended through your Chamber of Commerce, through your local governmental agencies. I believe Monroe County has a list of licensed and certified contractors just for Monroe County. So many of my clients not only got burned by their insurance companies after Hurricane Irma, but they also, what little money they got initially from their insurance companies, they ended up giving it to unscrupulous contractors or workers who defrauded them and just took their money and left. People are opportunists that come down here to take advantage of the disaster and don't really care what the consequence is to the insured. So trust your attorneys, trust your contractors, you know, talk to people in the community, you know, get recommendations. It really will go a long way. It's a small community. If you want to have a construction business in the community and you treat people the wrong way, you're not going to have a business very long. So the people that are trusted for a reason, and they're around still for a reason. People that can't be trusted, they don't last long in the community. So make sure you don't choose the fly-by-night contractors and hire local.
Good advice. Good advice. Joe, we're right up next to it. We've got exactly 1 minute left. Always want to make sure that we let folks know how to get in touch with you. People are going to see this. It's going to be repurposed on social media. It's going to be cut up and put on the MM for the People YouTube channel. Folks seeing this are going to say, how do I get in touch with that Joe Parrish guy?
Well, we're located right here in Big Pine Key, mile marker 30 across from the Walgreens. We're in a little strip mall. I think right after Hurricane Irma, this was the only commercial building available in the Lower Keys. Wow. This one little office, and you know, we've been doing great things out of the office, and we've really enjoyed our neighbors here. It's the old radio station. I forget what radio station it was because obviously I wasn't down here when it was a radio station. But everybody always says, hey, you're in the old radio station. Yeah, I'm in the old radio station in Big Pine.
All right. That works. That works. Well, Joe, we are very grateful for you coming and giving us the unique Florida Keys perspective on hurricane preparedness. We look forward to having you back to talk more about this or other issues. We hope you don't get hit hard this hurricane season, but if folks do, need to come see us. Morgan & Morgan Insurance Recovery Group. We can help you wherever you are. Joe, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. We look forward to having you back. We're going to sign off and everybody have a good evening.
All right. Thanks, Phil.
All right. Thank you, brother.